You're listening to the Electronic Media Collective Podcast Network. Yeah, it's a mouthful. For more great shows like the one you're about to enjoy, visit electronicmediacollective.com. And now, our feature presentation.
This is Randy. In the future, fans of foreign movies will wonder, where'd all these American actors come from?
This is Melanie. And in the future, our need to constantly simplify everything will lead us to discard difficult and useless letters like X, Q, and J. What do you think, Jesse?
Well done. Well played. This is Jesse. In the future, when you go to a silent auction, people will not be allowed to speak, and mimes will rule the silent auction underworld.
I love the idea of one, a silent auction underworld, and two, that it's ruled by mimes.
Well, yeah. Who else could rule?
Welcome to the Grawlix podcast. This is episode number 32.
Woo!
And the whistle goes. Today we are going to talk about surely some random things, but also the pull list pick, DC The New Frontier, and something that I'm sure no one else has been talking about for the last month, Stranger Things.
I've not even heard of it.
It's a pretty obscure little show. It's probably flown under your radar.
Probably.
I
mean, yeah. That and the DNC.
Yeah, you wouldn't have heard anything.
That went over well. I don't know. I have this bizarre need to make things political on this show. But.
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know what the heck you were talking about for a minute there, but now I know. I'm like, letters? What letters? Okay.
Let's kick right into some whatever in-house news we might happen to have. Oh, I do have something that'll be tied into a later conversation, so I'll save that for later. Which means I didn't have to mention it now at all.
I feel like we're doing well.
A Stranger Things thing.
Oh,
okay.
A stranger
thing. Yeah, okay. I know where you're going.
Do we have any new podcasts? Seems like every time we get on here, there's like 1, 2, 3 more.
No new podcasts on the network.
Not even the 3Bs? Aren't they new?
Were they? Did we not talk about them last time?
What is it?
I think they were new.
The Buds, Beers, and Brutality podcast.
I remember you saying it, but I don't know if it was actually in the podcast or if it was like a later thing you did for.
Well, in case we haven't mentioned it, we have a new addition to the podcast network, the Electronic Media Collective Podcast Network, of which we are a part of and we talk about frequently.
Yes.
The Buds, Beers, and Brutality podcast, 3B Horror Pod. If you want to look them up on Twitter, search that.
That's a good line right there.
Yeah. And it's a great show. I enjoy it quite a bit. It's typically 4, sometimes 5 guys. Last episode, there was a couple girls in the mix. And girls.
Wow.
And they will review a horror movie and watch it commentary style, and they pair usually some type of fancy type alcoholic beverage with it, and they also talk about the beverage. And by the end of it, they're usually pretty drunk, and it's very funny.
I would like.
Well, and if we did not mention them, I do know that we did not mention the fact that there's another crossover episode, which one of them's on, right?
Yes, there is another crossover episode, which if you haven't caught those, man, those are awesome. It's basically a random grab bag of hosts from various podcasts on the network each episode, and we talk about things, not Stranger Things, but not yet anyway, but things. And
how's that not happened? I don't know.
Yeah, I know. Last episode we had Dustin from the Pro Wrestling Iowa podcast. He's been on all 3 episodes. Myself, of course. Jesse was not on the last episode. Who was on the last episode? We also had Chris C. from the Buds, Beers, and Brutality podcast. And we had Robert from the Roman Pod and Cast show.
Pod and
Yes.
cast?
Yeah, Roman Pod and Cast, because it's Roman LeBeau and Robert Cast. So it's the Roman Pod and Cast.
I see.
So it's kind of Roman's show, and then Robert Cast is there.
Okay.
That's a good show too. I think we talked about it last time, but that's a good show as well. Both great stuff. electronicmediacollective.com. I feel awkward starting with that at the beginning of the episode, but I think I nailed the delivery.
I do too. You did very well.
Yeah.
It's like infotainment.
Yeah. It's like Madman. We just sprinkle it. Product placement throughout.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, the recent crossover episode, it was a good time. It was a good time. We didn't have a set topic, and I find I struggle a little bit with that. So in the future, we're gonna try to maybe have at least like backup topics if we don't know what to say.
Mhm.
Right. I think it was a good show. I mean, I listened back to it later, and I thought you guys did really well.
Yeah, it definitely was not a bad experience. It's a good time, and it's fun to listen to. And if you listen to the podcast feed version, the audio only version, it's smoothed over a little bit. On Facebook, we had streaming trouble, and I had to break the episode up into 2 pieces. But all right, Melanie's gone.
I'm here. I'm just not there.
She's gone to work.
Other in-house stuff, we have a Bytes that just went up.
Yeah, if you missed that, that was fun. And
We're likely to reference it.
yeah, we had a Grawlix Bytes number 7, but we did a commentary track for episode 1 of season 1 of the HBO animated Spawn series. And that was good. And I'm glad I had Jesse on there with me, because I think you carried a lot of the episode, but you,
when it comes to snarky, man, I can just deliver.
well, and you did. Then that's what made it so fun too. Because I was like watching it, I'm like, what was I thinking when I was watching this the other day? So the synth score here is kind of interesting, and you're like, that's Spawn. He's quite a guy. A violator.
Yeah. One man's garbage.
Oh man, that turned into my favorite thing. The treasure can moment. So if you don't
have a little bit of that,
if you don't know what we're talking about, go listen to it. The pacing, listening back, I listened to it on its own, and I think it plays fairly well if you're not watching the show still. It's definitely a different kind of pacing for a Grawlix, but I think it worked. And we
didn't have a whole lot of dead space. I mean, there was a few times where I caught myself. I'm like, I'm just watching this. I need to be saying something.
Yeah, commentary track's definitely tricky, but it was fun to do.
And there were times where it's like you had so much to say that you start missing other content. Mm-hmm. It was like, oh wait, but this happened. Oh no.
So I would definitely be excited for future commentary tracks.
Yes.
And I haven't got a whole lot of feedback specifically on how people felt about that episode. The download numbers are pretty good.
We got a lot of retweets and a lot of sharing of the link. So I think people must have at least been interested in the topic, if not actually the content itself.
So if you listener checked out the episode and you enjoyed the commentary track, let us know, and we'll take that into consideration when we're thinking of future, like, what can we do for a random Bytes or something?
We will put your feedback on its very own Acme box and place it into a artist studio warehouse.
A very interesting lit dungeon wall looking artist studio warehouse.
All I have to say is, Todd McFarlane, you are a lucky man, because your vision must be impeccable. Because if I had to draw into those conditions, it wouldn't happen.
The intro,
it'd be like the Mole Man.
The Todd McFarlane intro to that episode is amazing.
Yes,
really. I think when I watched it the first time, or at least the first time in many years, as soon as the intro was over, I was like, "We have to do a commentary for this."
Yeah.
That was a good time, and we also talked about like The episode's about 27 minutes long, and we talked for another roughly 30 minutes after.
I was going to say, we probably doubled it.
Yeah.
Because that's how we do. That's what we do here.
And we even talked after that and released a Grawlix Bytes post show on Patreon. So,
Did it actually make a post show?
Yeah, I cut it down. It could have been 25 minutes long, and but I cut it down to about 10 minutes because I was like, this 10 minutes is good. And the other stuff wasn't bad, but I was like, this 10 minutes has like energy.
Right.
Or maybe it wasn't even 10. Maybe it was like 4 minutes. I don't know. It was pretty short, but I was like, this has energy. It's fun to listen to. The other stuff isn't bad, but I think if I were a listener, this would be what I'd want to hear. So,
right. Concentrated fun.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, you know what I never did? I never hit stream for our non-existent Spider Buggy Bonsai tier patrons.
Oh, no.
So I'll do that now. More than anything, I'm curious to see how that turns out after the fact.
Oh, yeah. Sure. And all of these things, the post show, the Spider Buggy tier, all of that you can find at patreon.com /Grawlix podcast, yes?
Yes.
Or is it more complicated than that?
Patreon.com/Grawlix podcast. Nope, that's what it is.
That sounded right in my head.
Sorry, I'm just trying to get this little broadcast started for our very select few that actually get to listen to us record these live for some reason. We could broadcast up to 8 hours if we wanted.
Oh. Wow, I can't imagine that.
No, I know.
8 hours, a full day. We'd have to have something like a, I don't know, like a Kickstarter going on or something if we were going to live cast like that. And I don't even know what we'd kickstart. Maybe an actual spider buggy. a spider buggy scaled to bonsai size.
That would be pretty amazing. I'd have to like tie his feet into there, and then which he would not be happy about.
It suddenly sounds like a torture device.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say, and then we're starting to get into some like questionable territory in terms of animal cruelty.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, Randall, you could force your flying ways upon the kitten.
Force my flying ways upon the kitten.
He doesn't fly. Stop trying to make him do it.
That's why he needs a spider buggy.
Listen, he wants to fly. He just doesn't know it. But when it's happening, I'm sure he's thrilled about it. The other day I was holding him and he wouldn't look at me. I was like, why won't you look at me? And then he took his paws and he pressed against my chest trying to get away. And I was like, why are you like this?
It's so weird your relationship with him.
Were you asking yourself or the cat?
The cat.
Oh, I didn't know if it was a
Listen,
moment of introspection
no,
or what.
It's all the cat's doing. He's the one doing it
Oh,
wrong.
he's the one. Yeah.
I just like to have fun, all right? Hey, I just like to have a good time. Nothing weird about that. Wow, what happened? What is this?
We're all learning about your habits.
Yeah, I don't really pester the cat all that much. Most of the time I chase him around because he pesters me. Like, shut up, cat, leave me alone. But it's usually if Melanie's around, then I like to make a show of it.
Oh, yeah.
You gotta have an audience. Listen, you have to have an audience for this. Otherwise, you're just a weirdo.
Otherwise, you're just mean to animals.
Yeah, otherwise it's just cruel. If you got an audience, it's a good time. It's fun.
Hey, guys, see? Oh, man.
I was talking to Dustin from Pro Wrestling Iowa podcast. Was saying something about he wanted to play D&D, and that sounded exciting. And then you chimed in with
Yeah, that happened today.
Yeah,
like mere hours ago.
Sounds like the making of a potential super podcast. And yeah,
right.
That would be awesome.
I was going to chime in that you guys both failed your will save against starting another podcast. But
hey, nothing is officially been agreed upon.
Yeah,
but
yeah, I know. But once you get excited about another show, it's all downhill.
I know. I mean, I the crossover pod, the network crossover podcast is kind of a second podcast for me as it is. So
right,
if another podcast happened to like come into being, It'd definitely be. It'd have to be monthly at the most.
It probably wouldn't be such a big deal if you were just a host, but if you had to do all the other stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which you still kind of do because of the network, but yeah.
And so we do the network crossover shows. We do those live and we stream them to Facebook. And part of that decision was if it goes out live, I don't have to edit it. And even after the fact, when I do the audio only upload later to the website, even that, like, I might clean it up a little bit, but since it's already gone out live, I don't feel like I have to like scrub through it. So it's a pretty quick turnaround. I also enjoyed doing that commentary episode because I couldn't edit it too much or else the time would become off.
Right. It'll be podcast day before too long.
Yes. September, which is that
September 30th, yeah.
September 30th is it's International Podcast Day.
So this will actually be the September episode that we're recording now. So at the end of the month, podcast day. So
we're definitely have something going on network wise, Electronic Media Collective network wise. We'll have some type of, whether it's just like a special crossover episode or there was talk of kind of a interesting clip show, kind of like what we did last year, but on a bigger scale or from a different angle.
More like a highlight reel.
Yeah. And I don't know that I'll be able to get all the shows on the network in on that. But I mean, with as many shows as we have now, we don't have to, and we could still have a pretty sizable episode. So so we'll have something in that respect lined up, and Grawlix will be tied into that. And I don't know if we're doing a Grawlix specific anything. Yes, it kind of depends.
I guess we hadn't really talked about it. Yeah.
But we hadn't really talked about the commentary episode till like the day before we did it either. So
yeah. That's kind of how we roll.
These things just spring up sometimes.
You guys just be ready because whatever happens.
Yeah. You know what? Let's do letters page segment.
Okay.
Oh hey.
So we don't have any voicemail this month, but the letters page is our listener input segment. If you want to chime in on what we're talking about this episode, which we always announce it pretty much the episode before, or at least on social media, or even what we talked about in a past episode, or you just want to talk about the show or whatever, you can send us an email at letters, that's letters, letters at grawlixpodcast.com. You can send us an audio clip, which would be great because this is an audio medium. You can email it to the same address, or you can leave us a voice message on our Google Voice line, which is 559-426-6427, or if this helps you remember, 559-4-COMICS. I believe that's a California area code, so if you have to worry about long distance, just be aware of that.
Yeah.
559, not 555. And try to keep it about 2 minutes. If you're doing an audio anything, keep it 2 minutes or under. That'd be great. But we do have an email this month.
Oh my gosh.
Yay.
From a person that's not one of us?
It's not us and it's not Brandon. So we got this from Patrick from Make Dad Read Comics. And this is a fantastic email. We got it shortly after our last episode went up. So I was like, that's a great email. I really want to reply to it. We got to wait like a month for the next episode.
Like a full month, yeah. So Make Dad Read Comics is a podcast?
Yes, it is a podcast.
I asked this question like I don't know the answer.
I know. I liked how you framed that. It's a podcast that I sent an email to.
Interrogative? Yeah, I did actually send an email back. And you can hear my email on his episode 167 about Battling Boy, which was an interesting episode anyways, because it's about a comic I had not heard of.
Yeah, me either.
Battling Boy?
Battling Boy. It sounds really interesting.
Yeah.
And that's a good episode, yeah. Make Dad Read Comics. Check that out. Jesse emailed them, and they read it on their show after we got this email from Patrick.
And you can contact Patrick on Twitter at Dad Read Comics.
Yep.
On the tweets.
On the tweets.
Or twit, as Dad would say on the show. Or tweet.
So, Patrick writes, "Hey all, this is an email long time coming, having listened for years but never properly interacted.
Has it been years?
We've been doing this for 2.5 years.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
See, that's why it's so rough. We're hitting our terrible cues, baby.
It was a 2.5, right?
Yeah.
Are we getting 2.5?
Close to 2.5, yep.
Was it like March or February when we started?
Oh, yeah, I guess it is.
March.
Yeah, I guess it is closer to 2.5 than I was thinking.
It's our 2.5 episode.
Yeah. Time for a tantrum.
Forgive me, I am a rambling dolt. Whomever reads this email, I am sorry. I will keep it bullet pointed. I wonder if he wanted us to read that.
Well, we did.
yeah. We're going to do that anyways.
Don't worry, Patrick. If there was ever a place to ramble, this is the place for it.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks for plugging my show, often via Twitter. I suck at social media. I am sure you have more to do with our legion of listeners than I.
Legions of listeners?
He has a pretty good following.
Yeah, but...
I don't think he got it from us. I mean, we have, interacted with him on social media for quite a while, and, I always try to promote a show. I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're really good at that, baby.
But I can't. I don't think we can take any claim on his listenership because they have a good show. It's a good premise.
Yeah. It's a great premise, and I look forward to it every week. So it's
Well,
people check it out.
Thank you for that, Patrick. I mean, there's more to the message, but thank you for that thought. And I mean, I guess if we have to, we can claim that. But I can't stake any claim on your listenership. You did it all yourself, man. That's good hard work.
We hope we sent you some people.
Yeah. I think the long form monthly format of the show is perfect. Gives me time to read the book on the poll list and voting list deal. Plus you folks do a great in-depth discussion with that much prep time. For some of the books we read, we need that much prep time.
Yeah.
For some of the books we read, I barely read them before we...
Speaking of this month.
Yeah. Well.
We'll get into that shortly. But I mean, I didn't finish this month's poll list book till last night. So
I finished it this morning.
Yeah.
Yep.
Melanie
that's wow.
Doesn't even know what we're reading.
I don't. Honestly, I don't.
But that's not your fault. It's been a crazy thing for you. Okay. More on this. Let's see. Plus you folks. Okay. I already did that. Jesse, I dig Tank Monkey. Also, you back to school in August? We have until September here in the great state of Michigan.
Oh, enjoy that because this week was rough.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because Melanie's back to school too.
Both of you guys got slammed this month. Yeah. But not in Michigan. They get to wait till September.
And thank you for your kind words about Tank Monkey, by the way. Thank you.
Is Michigan where they make lots of beer, or is that?
What?
Is it Michigan where they make a lot of beer, or is that Wisconsin?
I think they make tires. I don't know.
Wisconsin likes their beer for sure.
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm confusing you then. That's horrible of me. You just have a big cool lake.
Maybe I should turn your microphone up, huh?
Am I quiet?
It was turned all the way down.
Oh.
So they might not have heard you at all. But
that's okay. I was probably insulting.
I can hear her, so I don't.
Oh, you could hear her? Okay, if you could hear her, good.
Fine. So.
Well, she's back to full volume now, so my bad. I turned it down when you were on the computer. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Okay. Patrick continues. On to Infinite Crisis. I think it was Randy that pointed out how goofy Batman was in this book. I had the same takeaway on my reread, and now can see how Frank Miller's Dark Knight Returns post-crisis was such a sea change for comics at the time. Melanie, as a kid, I think I may be a bit older than you lot. I thought Pariah the character?
Yeah.
Okay. But as a kid, he thought Pariah was a 1930s hysterical woman stereotype.
Yep.
Yeah.
I can do that.
But as an adult, he could not get over the hell that would be reliving the end of world after world.
Yeah, that would be brutal.
Yeah. And headbands are whack, son.
Supergirl, get with it.
Yep, get with it.
Yeah, I mean, unless you're going to be on the next, was it Fame? Like a sequel to Fame? Or I suppose you were like, what was it? I've got Over the Top in my head, but it's the sequel to Saturday Night Fever. So I don't know.
Staying Alive?
Yeah, Staying Alive. Yeah, I don't know. The title track of Saturday Night Fever.
Yeah.
All right. When you became bogged down in the plot and how confusing everything became, it confirmed that this is a book I can never have Dad read on our show.
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend that.
No, so confusing.
I mean, yeah.
When you read it, it's straightforward, but there's just so much trying to like recount it all. Holy crap. Yeah. Wise call, Patrick. Don't do it.
Yeah.
Plus, there's probably better books that your dad would enjoy.
I think if I were going to get confusing at all, I would maybe recommend what we're reading this month, which is The New Frontier.
Yeah. Yeah.
That one would be okay, even though there's a lot of characters, because there's a lot of cool period things to tie into.
Yeah, I was actually thinking about that after the fact and thinking about this email. Like this, I could see them covering on Make Dad Read Comics, what we're going to talk about today, but definitely not Crisis.
No.
Let's see. It was insane that Darkseid died like 400 times.
Yeah.
Alexander Luthor suddenly becomes so crazy, pseudosexual Deus Ex Machina device.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
Yeah.
Let's all go in my belly button.
And
That was this Ren and Stimpy episode, by the way.
It's a good thing it's an innie.
Oh, yeah.
and Patrick says, I still choke up when Barry Allen dies, though.
It's the ultimate sacrifice, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's played well. Great show. If you ever wish to help me explain comics to my dad in the future, any and all have an open door. Patrick and Dad via proxy. I don't know that we would help clarify things.
We probably wouldn't help matters, but that is a very generous offer.
Yeah. As great as it would be, I have a feeling that'd be one of those shows where I don't think I could personally add to it.
I would just detract from things. I'd be like, hey, Dad, what do you think about this?
Yep, me too. And then it'd be like an hour later. And
I would be distracted.
Yeah.
And distracting.
All of our eyes are glossed over. Patrick's like, you guys are just as bad as Dad is. Thank you, Patrick. That was an awesome email, and I was super excited when you sent it to us.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, it's a real nice email. So everybody, go listen to Make Dad Read Comics. It's really good. It's a good show. They've covered a ton of books.
They have. I was looking at their archives, and I was just like, whoa, you guys have hit books that we haven't even seen on our pull list yet. So,
and I know we've
awesome.
given them a shout out on the show in the past, but if you don't know what it is, Patrick is into comic books. His dad was never into comic books. It was, kid stuff and stuff for trench coat wearing weirdos, and it was not something his dad was ever into. And he started a podcast, and each episode he has him and his dad read a comic book or graphic novel, and then he discusses it with his dad, who is not a comics fan. At this point, he's read so many comics. He still says he's not like a fan of comics, but there's definitely comics you can tell he enjoyed a lot, and he gets excited about when they talk about it on the show.
Right.
So that's super fun to listen to.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't be this month, or it wouldn't be this week, but the week before they reviewed a webcomic, and it brought on a whole bunch of socio-political, like ideological discussion, and you could tell that Dad was really into it. So I think that if nothing else, he really likes that aspect of comics.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if Patrick and his dad stopped doing the podcast, his dad probably might not pick up another comic book, but he definitely seems like he's enjoyed it. And some of them he seems like he doesn't enjoy, as will happen, but it's...
Some of them I don't enjoy.
It's a great show. It's a great podcast. And it's
I was just say, like, I think Mel and Patrick's dad probably have kind of similar tastes in comics, because he doesn't like the big cape. It seems like I shouldn't say that, because maybe he does, but it seems like Patrick's dad doesn't like the big cape superhero books as much, and I feel like sometimes that's the case with our show too. Is like, man, we hit a lot of capes in our show, and sometimes that can get a little overwhelming.
Yeah.
Okay, I wasn't off base on that.
Let's get some I don't know, evil things and vampires and witches and gosh, could we read witches?
Witches? Scott Snyder?
Yeah.
All right, well, that's all we got for letters page.
Okay.
I thought of some It's All Pizza stuff real quick.
Yeah, let's do that.
Axton, Kaler, and I, and we've talked about Axton, and we've even had him on the show before. We went to Kansas City Comic-Con. Boy, was that at the beginning of this month?
Oh, yeah.
Again, we met the cat dancer himself, J.O. Barr. You know, like we didn't talk to him in depth or anything. I would go, "Hey, I'm buying this print of Gabriel because cat dancing." And you're like, I didn't have that awkward conversation.
You didn't give him a Grawlix business card?
No, I didn't go there. No, but I did have some great conversations with a couple people, and one of them, and I really felt bad after the fact. Was like, why didn't I pack a good recorder for this? Because the conversation we had with the folks at Walkin and Rollin Costumes, which their website is walkinrollin.org, and it's Rollin without a G.
Okay.
Oh, same thing with Walkin. It's WALKIN and then Rollin, ROLLIN.org. And what they do is they create basically cosplay costumes for kids in wheelchairs. And they're like, when you see those on social media, it's possible that these guys did them, because they will take a wheelchair and create an X-wing fighter around it.
Oh, nice.
Or they will take a wheelchair and turn it into Baymax from Big Hero 6 or R2D2. And so we got talking to them. That was the first place that we stopped, and that's the first place that the first people that we talked to, and they gave us some kind of like coloring sheets, but basically so that you could design a wheelchair costume, and so that you could do that and then send it in to them. And they were just really interesting folks, and just doing incredible things for a good cause. And so, yeah, I wanted to go ahead and mention that I ran into them. And then we also talked a little bit to a group called Pawns and Pints. We played Jenga, like giant-sized Jenga, at their table, and did not win a T-shirt, unfortunately. I was just going to knock over the thing so that Axton won, because that's how it worked. It was like, you played Jenga, and if the next person lost, then you got a T-shirt. So I was like, what if I just knock this over? Then Axton will win. But I didn't do that. But they are like a cool little, like, they had a Kickstarter. I don't know if it's probably going to be over by the time that this airs, but they are opening. Oh no, 22 days to go as I open this up. They are a board game cafe.
Board game cafe.
Pawns and Pints, Kansas City's first board game cafe. And it looks really good. Check out their Kickstarter. Search for them on Kickstarter. And all I did was type in Pawns and Pints in Google, and it came up. So
that is a great idea.
Yeah. It reminds me of Spielbound, which is in Omaha. So if you're in the metro area, check them out. But Pawns and Pints, check out their Kickstarter. It's already funded, so anything that you do is just going to help even more.
It's funded with 22 days to go.
With 22 days to go. They must have gone with one of the long form.
That's awesome, though.
Campaigns, but yeah, very cool.
That reminds me of an update to a Kickstarter we did a shout out for last episode, last Prime. The Herald, Lovecraft, and Tesla tabletop RPG.
Uh-huh.
Oh, yes.
They got funded.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Yay!
So we can play it while we read.
We were hoping to try to get somebody from their camp on the show and to talk to us, but we just didn't get a chance to fit it in.
Right.
Yeah.
But they didn't need us.
No.
They did it on their own.
Although I did back them, so they did need me. I kid.
Jesse, is there a Kickstarter you haven't backed?
That's good. That's a fair question.
No.
I feel like I shouldn't answer it, but it is a fair question.
No, I'm kidding. Because, well, after I was halfway into that, I was like, man, this kind of sounds like me being a jerk, and I'm just playing along, playing around.
No.
But
no, if we mention it on the show, generally speaking, I'm already on board. So,
but that just makes sense, because it's obviously Kickstarters. I feel like that gives legitimacy to us giving a Kickstarter a shout out. because you've most likely, if we talk about it, you've chipped in, you've funded it.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
it's not
true.
like some weird payola scheme we got going on. We don't get nothing out of it.
Nope.
Yeah.
In fact, it is ruining my life. I mean, my budget. My budget is ruining my budget.
Oh, okay.
That took a turn.
Well, maybe we'll fund some more later. Take some of the heat off Jesse.
When you guys funded the After Daylight.
Yep. And we got a fantastic paperback copy of the After Daylight Volume 1 book.
Yeah.
That's a great looking book too.
Mm-hmm. How's that pecan pie?
It's freaking delicious.
Okay, good.
I also I'm almost 40 and I bought my first Game Boy. Sort of.
Yeah?
It's a Nintendo 2DS.
A 2DS?
A 2DS, because you can get a 3DS, and basically a 2DS is the same thing, only it's not 3D.
Really?
Surprise, surprise. Real weird.
So,
but
it's
a little cheaper, and so yeah.
What led to this?
Well, I don't know. Like I was asking my brother Jacob about this, and I was like, "Hey, is this a midlife crisis, or am I just a giant nerd?" And he's like, "Nah, you're just a giant nerd." But it was like, I've been playing a lot of Pokemon Go, and if you're a Patreon backer, you know this,
Yeah.
because I've put up a few ridiculous videos, or I've put up one, and there's another one coming. But anyways, I kind of was like, I kind of want to see what this is about. So I went ahead and bought Pokemon X. And then I also, I've been really wanting to try out A Link Between Worlds, which is the Zelda sequel to the Super Nintendo title, Zelda A Link to the Past.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've just been, that's been on my radar for a while. And I knew that it was coming out for this system. So that's the main thing. But it just occurred to me. I was like, I'm almost 40 and I've never owned my own Game Boy.
That's fair. I've never had a Game Boy myself either.
Neither have I.
I've always been like a console guy.
Yeah.
I was always a console guy, and then I became part of the PC master race in terms of my gaming. And then, but like as I've gone on, I started to realize, like, yeah, as much as I prefer a good sit down gaming experience, I'm more apt to play a game on my phone.
Mm-hmm.
I'm more apt to be on the go. I would probably use a Game Boy or a DS or in this case, 2DS more than any of those other things.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting that now that everyone has phones that can do what phones can do, that now you pick up a handheld system, but it is kind of your gateway into, I guess, mobile gaming, because you still don't see phone games quite like handheld devices can do.
No, yeah. The Angry Birds and Pokemon Go are the only two phone games I've ever even thought about playing. And even then, it's like, for a while.
If maybe I should get one of those, because if my phone could handle it, I'd be playing Fallout and play Gink all the time, but they crash constantly on my phone.
Oh, you mean like the Fallout Shelter thing?
Yeah.
Okay. It surprises me your phone has, especially like Plague Inc. It's not super phone intensive, but that's a bummer. Yeah,
it sucks. They're like my two favorite ones on there.
Mm-hmm. Plague Inc. is fun. I haven't played Fallout Shelter.
Plague Inc. is frustrating. After you get to Mega Brutal, it's like you can get like 2 of them, and then it's like the rest of them are impossible, I swear.
Yeah. That's like the perfect game for you. You kill everyone on the planet.
Yeah, it's great. I love it.
It's like a worldwide epidemic, apocalyptic plague.
Oh yes, I've seen this.
Yeah,
I've seen ads for it or whatever. Yeah,
it's a plague sim.
That looked interesting too. Yeah, I just looking at this, it's like this Nintendo 2DS is now powerful enough to play a lot of the things I would have played on a console.
Yeah,
like you can go in and you have access to the virtual console. So any of those old school games like Super Mario Brothers 2, you can play that obviously. But you can also play, they released like a lot of the Nintendo 64 games. They have re-released it for for the 2DS or the 3DS. So I could go back and play Majora's Mask, or I could go back and play the original Zelda N64 Ocarina of Time.
You know, a lot of people are going to find this crazy, but with the exception of like maybe a couple minutes of the original NES Zelda game, I've never played Zelda. Any of them.
Wow.
Any of them.
Really? I mean, I remember being around a lot of Zelda, but I don't think I really got to play it very often.
Mm-hmm. The Nintendo stuff I wasn't interested in at that time anyway. It seemed it's a kind of a slower paced type game.
I like Duck Hunt and I like Tetris. Those were my games.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And I didn't have an NES. You know, I had like a Atari 2600 until I got a Super Nintendo. So I never owned an actual NES, but everyone else on Earth had one. So I played a lot of NES games at friends' houses and cousins and stuff. And Zelda is not one that makes for fun.
No, you can't No, you can't take turns on that.
It's like, oh, you want to play Zelda? Zelda? No, I don't want to play Zelda. So what, you want me to sit here and watch you play Zelda for an hour? No.
Yeah.
So I didn't care for Zelda. And then after that, I was just like, no Zelda.
Right.
I had Bayou Billy. Woo!
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Bayou Billy?
That's old school. That's original NES.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I had to mention that because we don't get a lot of gamer talk on here. But I thought that'd be an interesting footnote or side note.
Randy started playing Skyrim.
I did start playing Skyrim.
Oh, see, I own it and I've never cracked the seal on it.
Really?
Because I'm like, that's a hole I'll never get out of.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, you will, because you'll be like, these freaking mountains! And you'll stop for a minute.
You know, it is, okay, so I'm a sucker for a good sandbox game. That's like, since, I want to say, I think it was Grand Theft Auto Vice City was the first, like, sandbox game I really got into. And after that, I was like, why wouldn't I want to play, why would I opt for other things over this? Like, just give me a box where I can do anything in there, and that's great. So sandbox games are my things, but Skyrim is frustrating because most sandbox games you can walk to from A to B, or drive from A to B, or fly from A to B. In Skyrim, there's a mountain between A and B, and you got to go around, and it's a blizzard, and there's a snow troll trying to rip your face off.
Yep.
It is frustrating. Horses are useless.
Yeah, they are. They die so quick. I'm like, God, it's a bear. Come on.
Yeah, I was hesitant. I was hesitant to start Skyrim. But like Fallout was my into Skyrim because I'm more into the setting of Fallout than like the typical fantasy thing isn't generally my stuff. But you know, it's a Bethesda game. They're very similar. The mechanics are almost identical for the most part.
Some of the codes are the same.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, I'll try it. And you've been playing it for months.
Oh, I started a new game.
It's all the same. You're still in it.
Yeah. Well, Fallout 4 and the New Vegas even was having problems
on your computer.
On my computer.
No, I know, but I'm not as sucked into it as I was worried I would be.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's fun for a little while, and then I'll be like, okay, I'm gonna stop for a while.
Yeah, you have to sometimes.
But I haven't fallen into it like you did. Okay, I'll put it this way: I haven't fallen into it like I did like Fallout 4, which I blew through quite a bit, and then I kind of fell out of that too. So I was also something that you said, Jesse, got me thinking. I was always a console gamer. But now that I have a computer that can run good games, I kind of love playing games on computers.
Oh yeah. That's what kind of happened to me too, is that when you have the machine that can run it, oh man, it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
You get used to playing it that way too. And it's like, I don't know if I can go back.
Yeah. Well, yeah. But like I started playing Minecraft, not the same, but I started playing Minecraft on the computer. And then when I started playing it on the Xbox when we got it, I was like, this is so much freaking easier. It's ridiculous.
On the Xbox?
Yeah.
Is it really? Huh.
Because you don't have to memorize all the codes for everything.
Well, so yeah, certain
codes, but you know.
The crafting is kind of dumbed down in a way. But I understand their logic for it. I mean, you need the same stuff to make a thing as on the computer, but you don't need to know how to put it into the grid.
Oh yeah, because I've goofed that a few times. Going back to it recently, I was like, oh, come on, how do I make a bow and arrow? Which that's not what it was. I figured that one out, but it was something like ridiculously simple. I'm like, am I going to have to Google this? Come on.
What I had read is that exactly what you said is part of the reason they opted to not make you do that on the console version, because they're like, if you're on a computer, you can alt tab over to the internet.
Yeah.
And that tells you how to do stuff. And they're like, on a console, you can't do that. So we're not going to make people.
Right.
You're supposed to be able to on the Xbox One.
Yeah, that's true.
If you let it take your soul.
Yeah. I can't do that, Dave.
Yeah.
It's Hal.
Sorry.
With the computerized personal assistants and blah blah blah. Do they have a way to change? Can you make Siri Hal? Because that would be so great.
There's got to be.
There has to be.
You know what? There is a video out there of. Have you guys played Portal at all?
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay. The main AI in Portal meets Hal in the new Lego Destinations game, and it's brilliant. You should YouTube that. Look that up. Hal meets what's her name? It's eluding me right now, but yeah, it's the Portal AI meets Hal.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. I'll check that out.
And she's like, who's Dave? Like she's all indignant about it. Very classic Portal style.
Portal's a good game.
Mm-hmm.
I never played Portal 2. And I never
fun.
played all the way through Portal, but I played
They have
Portal.
They have a co-op version that was a lot of fun.
Portal's good. It gets hard.
Yeah, it does.
Puzzler. So I say we jump before you hop off of here.
Mm-hmm.
Let's jump into the beginning of pull list.
Yes.
So we can discuss what we're going to read next month real quick.
Good idea.
And then you can get back to your work.
And then I'll come back when we get to
Stranger Things?
Okay.
The pull list segment. Jesse, if you happen to have it up.
I do.
What are we reading next month?
I love the hand movement.
The hand movement, listeners can't see, but it's like
I can't see either.
Makes me think of Popeye. For
yeah, it's like Popeye, like
swinging his arm.
Yeah, like if I were singing a sailor shanty.
Yes.
Is that a
that's a
shanty is like a house.
If I was swinging a sailor house,
shelter,
a sea shanty. Is that it? I don't know.
A chanty, maybe. Yeah, I don't know if that's actually a thing, but it sounds closer to a song than a shanty.
It was jovial. I know that much.
Okay, all right. I'm down with that.
Okay, so the poll list. Every episode, we read a book that was voted on by listeners and visitors to the website. So if you haven't got your vote in, go to grawlixpodcast.com. It's in the sidebar, or go to the click on the page that takes you to reading lists or poll lists, and you can vote on what we read next month. You can vote on what we're going to read after this next book.
Yes.
What are we reading next, Jesse?
Well, I'd just like to make a segue and say that our poll list is like a shanty town of delights. I mean, it's just like it's bizarre and random, to say the least. But what we will be reading next month, holding strong at number 1, is Scott Pilgrim. So we just narrowly dodged another JSA book, which would have, so in second place was Kingdom Come, which is another great book, but we just narrowly dodged another DC Comics property in favor of Scott Pilgrim.
Which is good, because I think we would have lost Melanie.
Well, yeah.
Scott Pilgrim, I think, will be much more interesting read for you.
Yeah. I remember the movie, sort of, but it seemed video gamey.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Music and video games. It's kind of hipstery, but...
I've never read Scott Pilgrim, though.
Oh, yeah, I can't say that about the book, though. Just the movie seemed hipstery to me. I don't know.
Yeah, okay, cool. I'm excited. That's what that was what was at the lead, in the lead last I looked, but I wasn't sure.
Yeah. Yep, it's still holding strong.
I was crossing my fingers it wasn't going to be Kingdom Come. Okay, so moving past that, listeners, we need to have a talk.
Yes, I would like to apologize.
Oh,
I did not read the poll list pick this month because I have had crazy work times this past.
Mm-hmm.
I worked like 15 days straight for a bit.
Ugh.
And
some of those days I
you put in inhuman and possibly illegal amounts of hours.
Yes, indeed.
So
like if I wasn't working, I was sleeping pretty much.
Yeah, and you didn't sleep a lot.
I know.
Yeah, so she
sorry.
she didn't read the book this month, but you know,
To be fair, we almost weren't able to read the book this month either.
Yeah, I'm kind of sad about it because from what I hear, it would have been better for me than some of the other ones that we had read.
Well, what I was thinking is, okay, so, and here's the thing. Somebody in our audience has
Yeah.
a very particular taste for specifically DC books focused around Golden Age and early Silver Age, like alternate comics history. Because there's elements of this book that we're going to talk about, The New Frontier, that are very similar to like at least 2, maybe 3.
I feel like the last 3 pull list picks have been
It's very
oddly
similar.
Yeah.
So when I realized that, I was like, you know what? Melanie's busy, so she doesn't need the extra pressure of reading this book, and maybe that's a good thing.
I didn't even realize that we were going to be podcasting today until yesterday.
Yeah.
I don't even know what part of the month I'm in half the time.
I know.
It's ridiculous.
But so yeah, this is in elements of this are very similar to stuff we've read recently that you've been complaining about. So I was like, it's kind of good this is the book that you skipped.
Mm-hmm.
But I kind of, after reading it, I was like, I kind of wish that we would have had this book last month and maybe Crisis this month.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think you would have enjoyed this more than you enjoyed Crisis. Or even some of the other books.
I can always go back to it when I have time.
Yeah.
But I'm going to leave and do more work while you guys podcast, and then I'll hop back on when it gets to something that I actually did have time to do.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so me and Jesse are going to continue the conversation. I'm going to turn your mic down.
Yeah, turn it down.
If you remember, which mic is it? Okay. But we're going to talk about DC, The New Frontier.
Yes.
This is, sorry, I should be more on point with my notes. Here we go. This was, basically totally created by Darwin Cook, right? It's written and art by Darwin Cook.
Yes, with Dave Stewart.
Yeah.
Is what it says right on the cover there.
And I was having trouble tracking down what Dave Stewart did. Apparently he did some color art.
Yes, he is the colorist.
He's the colorist, straight up. Okay. And this was originally released as a 6-issue limited series published between 2003 and 2004. It was collected in 2 volumes in 2005. That's the version I read. It's 2 separate books, volume 1 and 2. I believe the version that you read, Jesse, was the deluxe edition that was published in 2015.
That sounds about right.
And there is also an absolute edition, which I'm sure is huge and expensive.
Yeah, I think this is the deluxe edition, but it doesn't really say on the book itself.
Okay.
So
here's a synopsis from Wikipedia. It's pretty brief. Set during the years 1953 to 1960, post-World War II sentiment and Cold War tension have pushed the age of the superhero into decline, which is very similar to some of the stuff we've read lately. However, when a threatening alien presence emerges on Earth, a new era of superheroes must join forces with veteran heroes and an unfriendly United States government to battle the nemesis. That's what I got for synopsis. Okay, so you've read this before, Jesse.
I have not.
Oh, you really?
I had just picked this up because I own the animated movie.
Mm-hmm.
And do you guys have that too?
Yeah, we had watched the animated movie at some point, and so parts of this was familiar, but it's been honestly maybe a year, 2 years since I watched the animated movie.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I picked up the movie because I had always wanted to read The New Frontier, and then the movie came out, and I was super excited about that because I had heard all these great things about Darwin Cook's his work, and I knew that I liked Batman Beyond, and Darwin Cook was also involved in all the opening art sequences for that show. He was involved in that, so I knew I was already kind of a fan of his work. So watching the movie, I was like, yeah, I really feel like I need to read this work. So I went ahead and ordered it anyways, as soon as I saw it was on the list. And I'm glad that we read it, because I like the animated movie, but I feel like it's maybe a little rushed. It feels like there should be more. Like you didn't get it all in 2 hours or whatever the running time of that animated, feature is. And after reading this, it's like, oh wow, yeah, everything that was in the animated feature is in here and then some.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, from what I debated watching the movie again, but I kind of didn't want to muddy like the story in my head before we talked about it.
Right.
But from what I remember, it's like you said, everything in the animated movie is in the book. And in that respect, the movie pulled sequences and stuff fairly accurately, I guess, faithfully.
They did it a little bit out of sequence because they had to. Like, they really had to bring the idea of the center in really early into the animated movie. Mm-hmm. Because if you didn't do that, it would be even more confusing. I mean, like in the book that we read, you don't really get an idea of what's going on until maybe halfway through to the end. And so in the animated feature, it happens, boom, right in the beginning.
Yeah, and from what I remember, the stuff that's in the book that didn't make it to the movie, or at least the stuff that I don't recall being in the movie, all that stuff in the book is my favorite stuff. It almost felt like, and I understand why, because of what the DC animated movies usually are, they've got to hit the plot points and stuff like that. But there's so much in the book that made this, for me, a fantastic read that didn't make it to the movie. And a lot of that was like character stuff.
Yes. Because like the John Henry or the...
Oh, yeah. Was that in the movie at all?
No, that's not in the movie at all. And that was some of my favorite stuff. And how it ties into, a character that we meet later kind of thing.
I was so surprised by that. This is my first time reading it, and I wasn't sure. I mean, other than the fact that, like I had seen the movie, so I kind of had an idea. I knew it was about kind of golden age period stuff into silver age stuff. And it's kind of about that gap between the golden age and silver age, which is kind of interesting. I mean, apparently it was a fairly popular trend for a short time for like that topic.
It makes me wonder, like, how did the transition happen? Because I feel like maybe there wasn't much of a transition. It was like, rip the Band-Aid off, and now we have the Silver Age. And, like, maybe it was ripe for storytelling, where people are like, well, how did that transition happen? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Because these books didn't come until way later.
No, I mean, I think in reality, it was partially like, I mean, it was not ceremonial, it was just happened because of superhero sales slumps and then the Comics Code whole issue. And I think, I don't know. I'm sure there was a transition, but I don't think there was any like story reason for most of it in the old comics. So it's kind of interesting when writers like will go back and be like, here's like, assuming we didn't have the Comics Code issue, or, the comics didn't suddenly shift all to Westerns and war books, like, and horror books. Like, I don't know. It's kind of interesting to look at that. But so reading this, my first impressions were the first section we follow. What was his name?
Was it Rick Flag at the beginning?
Yeah, but really we're following, was it Cloud? Native American gentleman.
In the Losers, the group called the Losers.
Yeah. And I was like, what is this? Like, how does this connect to anything? But it was really interesting. And then it leads into a bit that started to worry me. And that's when I started kind of messaging you about it, Jesse. You basically get a big, like, I mean, it's not super long, but you kind of get info dump, just like, alternate history stuff, like historical. Here's what would have happened between this war and this war if there were superheroes, and here's what happened to the superheroes, and like the Golden Age, and like Watchmen, and like this and like that. At certain points, the government's like, superhero, we can't have these mystery men running around, and it was very much like that, and it felt just like that JSA book that we had written, or that we had reviewed 2 episodes ago.
GSA, the Golden Age.
Yeah.
It was almost exactly the same. That little bit was. And then it moves on.
Yeah. Yeah. But when it hit, I was like, and it's not a fault of the book, it's more circumstance. I was kind of disappointed. I was like, this seems like this again. Like,
right.
And that's why I say somebody in our listening audience really has like, they like this stuff.
Taste,
like, very specific taste. But, so at first I was kind of disappointed, but once you get past that, back into like the actual story, and it kind of jumps between several different characters, I was on board again because the writing in this is great.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And to that listener, we are loving this. We just like give us a few things you like, give us some of your other tastes too.
Yeah, a little more variation, because
we are enjoying this.
Yeah, and I was glad after, when I got done with this, I was glad we read this, because I think this is fantastic. I think it's a great book. I enjoyed it quite a bit.
Yes. It's like a work of art.
Yeah.
Like once you get beginning to end, it's like, whoa.
My favorite aspect of it is, story-wise, is like character moments. It handles the characters so well. And I do like that setting, the period, like what it say, from like 1950 into the early 60s.
Yes.
I do like that setting. Again, we've read some things placed in there on the pull list several times.
I'm not like a huge Wonder Woman fan, but I've read Wonder Woman off and on here and there. This may be my favorite Wonder Woman ever.
Oh yeah. That bit with the villagers.
Oh yeah. Yeah. In the Korean War, right?
So yeah, that was so good. I know this isn't necessarily like canon stuff. It's kind of not a total reimagining, but kind of a different take on some origins and stuff like that. But I think this book, like, this became, for me, several of the characters became the definitive version of that character.
Oh yeah,
like Wonder Woman or Hal Jordan.
Yeah, that may be the best Green Lantern retelling I can think of. I don't know.
It was so good. And really, the book follows Hal quite a bit. Like, there's certain characters that it follows more than others, and Hal Jordan's one of them.
Right. We kind of just check in on other characters. Like Batman's heavily involved, but we just kind of check in on him once in a while. I think this book, for me, the standout characters, Superman's there, but he's one we kind of check in and out with. The standout characters for me are the Green Lantern, obviously, because we're constantly checking in on him. The Flash plays a pretty heavy role in it. And then John Jones, this is also one of my favorite John Jones Martian Manhunter stories. And I don't claim to know a lot about the Martian Manhunter, but I really dig this version of his origin.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I would say if you had to narrow it down, who's the main characters in this book, the two primary are Martian Manhunter and Hal Jordan, Green Lantern.
Right.
Those are the two that it follows most often, but it does jump around. You get Flash, and you get interesting insight into, his thinking. It's Barry Allen too, specifically.
Right.
Because at one point he gives up being Flash. He kind of continued after the government was like, no, you guys aren't supposed to do this anymore. And Batman he's hardly in it, but man, he's awesome when he's in it.
Oh yeah. Well, and that's his role, I think.
Yeah. And it even covers the changeover, because you've got the very 40s looking, in terms of comics, the 40s looking Bat costume with the big flared ears off the cowl.
Mm-hmm.
And then once you get into, at least how it was split in the books I read, you get into the second half, volume 2, you get the changeover to the Silver Age Batman, where his costumes,
he's more Batman 66 kind of thing.
Yeah, and he's got Robin there, and him and Superman even have a little conversation about it. But,
yeah, but it's not totally on the nose either. That's the kind of fun thing about it, is that even though it's kind of meta, it's not hammering you over the head with it.
Mm-hmm. There were several characters that I was not some of the you get some Challengers of the Unknown characters in there. I'm not super familiar with them. Some of the more government types, I can't think of their names.
We had like Faraday, who wound up being like a pivotal character because of Martian Manhunter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really like the whole Martian Manhunter arc and aspect in this. And this has got and then this, I mean, I remember the animated series or the animated movie nailed the scene of him in the apartment perfectly. And of course, WB owns DC, so like they could even get away with the Bugs Bunny what do you call it?
Yeah. Oh yeah, where he morphs into him.
Yeah. So, but they took that right out of the book. It's just like the stuff in the book, I think, is handled so much more interestingly than they were able to do with the animated movie, because that whole thing with him being a cop or a detective in Gotham, I really like that. And you're just able to get a taste for their, like, you know, because you've got the narration and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
You get a better grasp on the character.
Yeah, and you get to see what John Jones is thinking. You get to see what Hal Jordan is thinking. And again, those kind of seem to be the two spotlight characters that we really get a lot of insight to. But there's a few other characters that we see an inner monologue from.
But yeah, I mean, I guess plot-wise, it's like the synopsis said. For the most part, it has to do with, like, most of the superheroes have kind of... You've got the Green Lantern origin is a big element of the story. You got Martian Manhunter coming to Earth, the John Jones stuff. And then you've got, like you said, the bit with the center, which they keep very much like a mystery through a lot of it until just before, like, it really ramps up to be the big climax, the showdown. Yeah. And that's the major plot, but it's like you said, it's beefy.
There's standout points, like a standout point in both the animated series and in the book is that scene. I'm kind of jumping around. I don't know how much of the plot we're going to hit, but there's like some really like iconic moments, like when Wonder Woman shows up in the invisible jet, but you can totally see her because she is like bloodied.
Yeah.
It's like the art style is very almost Bruce Timm, almost animated series style. It's very slick and awesome. That's my bias totally showing, of course. But like, that's a brutal moment to see in that kind of style. You know, it's almost like more poignant. The fact that you see like almost animated series style Wonder Woman totally bloodied in this invisible flying machine that you can't see otherwise.
Yeah. That moment made me realize, like, that invisible plane is dumb. It's such a stupid idea. Because I love how it's handled in this. And yeah, I'd like to jump in deeper on the art. But that sequence, because you see her sitting in the air, and there you can see the outline
like
of
the splats of blood, and
because there's blood, you can kind of see the outline of like the cockpit. But otherwise, it's as dumb as you would think it would be, because it doesn't make her invisible. You can see her, but the plane is invisible.
Which like, I guess I don't understand her power set well enough. I thought she could fly.
She can fly. I think
she can fly. So why does she need the jet?
Yeah. I think I mean, in this situation, I think she took the plane because she was injured.
Oh, okay. That makes sense, I guess. Yeah.
Like, I mean, Darwin Cook is taking this, it's Wonder Woman, like, established lore or mythos that she has this plane, and he's taking this very goofy idea and he's using it in a way that makes sense. But that sequence just made me realize how goofy that idea in general is.
Right.
But
yeah, he used it to great effect, I guess.
Yeah.
As good as you're going to get in a modern audience. But yeah.
Well, and I even think, like, the execution, I think, was cool, because it crashes, and then you even see, like, Superman, you can tell he's ripping, like, the door panel off because of the blood, like, that's on the invisible door. And I thought that was cool. Like, he's taking the idea and he's doing cool things with it. It's just a goofy idea in the first place.
Right.
Yeah, I like the art quite a bit, and you're right. When you've got, and there's not a lot of them, but there's a few kind of gory moments, or at least bloody moments. But the art's super clean, very, for the most part, very colorful, very bright, and it does have that kind of Bruce Timm somewhat, I guess you'd say, cartoony style, but it's cute. Darwin Cook has a very cute style. It's not like they have like big eyes and stuff like that, but it's if a character had big puppy dog eyes, it wouldn't seem totally out of place. But it looks good, and then like you said, it makes those moments of like intensity, or if there's a bloody moment, it really makes those pop because it's kind of feels like it's jarring.
It's almost like it's almost a contrast to the era almost, because everything else we see is very, like right down to the interiors of like the apartments that they live in, or like the opening scenes when they go to the boxing match with Wildcat, when they're in Vegas and you've got all those like crazy starburst, still like holdover 50s motifs, almost like the Jetsons kind of visual cues. So you see all those kinds of things. Like that's one of my favorite scenes, is where the Flash is rushing to Vegas to save the day against this totally 60s version of Captain Cold. So you've got like this very stylistic, spot on, like somehow all this works together, and then you have something like that, like, oh my God, this she's been brutalized in injury kind of situation. And it's like, whoa, that it's that much more poignant because it's set against this very clean, crisp outline.
And there's dinosaurs and crazy demonoid looking creatures.
What is not to like? Whoa.
It's so crazy. I really like the look of Martian Manhunter when he's in his like natural form. I like how he draws him. He almost looks like green rock or something, but he's very rough looking.
Yeah, it's like the most texture you see. Like most of the time it's pretty slick, but when there's monsters or anything that's supposed to look kind of scary, all of a sudden you get all this interior contour line.
Yeah. The panel layout, actually really liked it. The majority of the pages, almost all of them. There's a few pages that are like, double page splashes, and there's some that have like larger panels, but for the most part, almost every page is 3 panels, and they're almost like 16:9 widescreen ratioed rectangular panels. So it's kind of got like a default, or it's kind of got a almost cinematic look, just default to the layout itself.
Yeah.
And if you're reading this digitally on a phone or something, it's perfect. You flip the phone sideways and it's perfect for phone reading.
I bet.
But I like that. I like that. I mean, it wasn't like crazy panel layouts. It was straightforward, but it looked good, I thought.
Yes. Yeah. I don't know what else to add. That's absolutely it. You almost get like it's not like panoramic, but it's almost, because you get those long panels.
Yeah.
You get a good environment, even when it's like a zoom in, like you've got opportunities to zoom out, like when Wonder Woman and Superman are there at Washington, D.C. You get to see like this whole scene where they're receiving medals of honor from the president. And then there's other times where you just zoom in and you just see like somebody's eyes with Batman's shadow behind them. I'm looking at 2 pages in particular. With John Jones, when Batman interacts with John Jones, you get this awesome, like, it's him with this super elongated, cowl ears.
Is that?
And it's his shadow just behind him, and he's like sneaking out the window at the end. And then John Jones is so shaken up that he reverts back to his natural state.
I love when the books can do that, and it's usually a book like that's the best way to handle Batman in something like this, where, I mean, this isn't like a Justice League book, but it's, it covers a lot of different characters, a lot of different DC superhero characters, and he handles Batman so well and perfectly in the way that I like when Batman's in a larger book. They make him mysterious. He's like kind of a creepy, he's more monstrous than some of the monsters they come across. He's got a creepier, he's a creeper.
Yeah. Yeah, and he's like the only, aside from the Center, he's the only character that seemingly can take down Superman.
Yeah.
Which you find out later is a little bit more collusion than that. But
I love that bit when, speaking of John Jones and Batman, where they come across the book from this cult. And that's where I think that's when you first see Batman in any kind of action. And they really play up Batman just being like terrifying. At one point, the detective partner of John Jones says something about Batman's costumes, like, wow, he can move even if he does dress like a Nancy or something. I don't remember what he says. But then later in the, like a page or two later in the whole sequence, the guy's like frozen, paralyzed in fear, watching Batman work over this cult leader, and talking about like, hearing the sounds of wrists snapping and stuff. Like, it goes really hardcore.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, see, I would have liked that.
You would have liked that. That's one of my favorite moments. But anytime you make Batman that awesome.
It's kind of an aside, but I really like the part where everything's going. I'm like jumping forward again. Everything's going down, and you've got all the mystic forces just chilling on the moon.
Yeah.
Billy Batson eating ice cream, and
until he gives himself an ice cream headache.
Yeah. Well, and Zatanna's like, hey, don't eat so fast.
Yeah, I thought that was unusual. At first, I was like, "Whoa!" Oh, because it jumps to the Spectre and who was it?
Dr. Fate, the Spectre, the Phantom Stranger, and Billy Batson and Zatanna.
Yeah, and I was like, "Oh yeah, the weird mystic side of DC," but it really kind of, I mean, okay, I guess we're kind of getting a little bit more like plot specific. I don't think we're going to go hardcore spoilers, if that's even a possibility in this, I guess. I don't know. But for me, it felt like, I mean, it was a cool scene, but it felt like Darwin Cook was like covering a possible plot hole.
Yeah. He's like, this, I could see people arguing about this on the internet. So here's the thing.
Yeah. Like if this threat was so big, why didn't the Spectre step in or whoever? And yeah, that was just totally covering that base. But it was cool.
His attention to detail in this thing is just incredible.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is, I mean, of the DC stuff we've read for the poll list lately, I'm thinking, including Golden Age and
I'm kind of glad
Crisis.
we read it in this order, like I'm kind of glad that we read Golden Age first and then this, because Golden Age would have fell flat for me after reading this.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. I completely agree. This is my favorite of these kind of books we've read. And you're right. I think following this up with Golden Age would have been kind of disappointing.
And I liked Golden Age, but yeah, this was not Golden Age. Golden Age was not this.
Yeah. And I had totally forgot about it. It's in the animated movie, but during the climax, it takes this really psychedelic turn.
Yes, that was the one thing I was a little confused about in the book, because they kind of glaze over it in the book, but they make a point of it in the movie. And that is, it doesn't metamorpho. Isn't that his origin in that moment? And we don't really get that in the book, do we?
Oh, yeah. No, I don't think there's like, I don't think he's got anything to do with it in the book at that moment.
Because, yeah, we see like a silhouette of him later, but like, Hal Jordan makes it out the other side as the Green Lantern in the movie, and then the other guy comes through as Metamorpho. Maybe I'm getting the wrong character name. I mean, that's and the only reason I know that is I just recently rewatched the animated feature too.
Oh yeah, I didn't catch that at all. Maybe that was an addition to the movie. Like, did Darwin Cook have anything to do with the script, adapting the script?
Yeah, he had a commentary track about the different changes and stuff. He was heavily involved in the process. I don't know if he had the final say on stuff or not, but
maybe that was something that came to him later, and he's like, "Oh, maybe I should have done this," and then got the chance. I don't know, or it's possible I missed it in the reading. But yeah, that does not. I didn't catch anything like that.
Well, like I said, I finished it this morning and it wasn't there, and I was like, oh. And that's the only reason I recalled it. It was like, wait, isn't this the part where ...
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I like the Hal Jordan arc. I mean, it kind of takes a while before you really get into like, I mean, it takes a long time before you even get to the ring stuff with him.
Oh yeah, you get a lot more backstory on Hal Jordan, I think, in this than you do in his actual origin.
Yeah, and then like him accepting like the powers basically is like the conclusion to his character arc. So you get a whole lot of Hal Jordan before he embraces the whole Green Lantern thing.
Yeah. Well, and he even uses the ring in a not quite Green Lantern way, like throughout a majority of this, really.
Yeah.
Like being one of the bravest souls on the planet, he's like, I don't know if I'm ready for this.
I mean, he once the action really starts to ramp up, he's gone. He like ran away.
Right.
So
like, I really got to process this. I picked up a mountain.
but
that's a little tongue in cheek, but yeah, I mean, it was awesome. But yeah,
the way Darwin Cook writes it and the art really sells the idea of how powerful a Green Lantern ring can be.
Yes,
which is fantastic, because you'll see in a lot of Green Lantern stuff, and I haven't read a whole ton, but you'll see like they're making big giant boxing gloves or even like a bus or something. But like, yeah, the idea of basically dropping a mountain.
Yeah, because usually we see them out in outer space, so it's just this big sandbox that they can play with, making hard light constructs with the ring. But like, yeah, we see what can he physically alter in the world on Earth, and it's like, whoa.
Yeah, you get a better idea of the scope,
and yet they even play with what are the limits of the ring.
Mm-hmm.
At least later they do. It's like, oh, I could move a mountain, but even this is really hard and I have to keep my total focus on it.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, he touches on, like, with Martian Manhunter, his, like, friendlier superhero appearance that won't startle people as much. Just stuff like that is really good.
It just really comes full circle and gives us, it's like just a really good prequel to the JLA, basically.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Did you get an opportunity to read the Darwin Cook afterward?
No, and the one I might have a different one in my book, but there is a Darwin Cook afterward that he even comments that it's kind of unusual to write one so soon after the original publication. Okay,
yeah,
okay.
I think that's the same one. Yeah.
Okay, I started reading part of it, and then I finished this pretty late last night, so I was like, okay, well, I'm just gonna stop now.
Yeah, that would be hard to read late at night. Yeah, I read it this morning, so it was a little bit fresher, and it's a really good afterward. I mean, like Darwin Cook just knew what he wanted to do, and he also understood that people were going to receive it however they were going to receive it. Like,
oh yeah.
For some people, it was going to be this whole allegory story. For other people, it was just going to be about the characters. And it's like, I don't know, for me, it was the total package, because it was an allegory. It was it was a social political commentary. It was this just thematic shift showing the change from what was the golden age to what heroes meant later on.
Yeah, I did get that far where he mentioned, some people just take it as like a big, how do you put it? I don't know if he said shoot him up against a big monster. Yeah. Like, I agree. Like, I picked up on all the aspects of it. And I appreciated all the aspects, but I could definitely zero in on the things. I get what he's saying, because I could zero in on the things that I liked most about it, and that'd be the character work and some of the social commentary.
Right.
And that's the stuff I liked most. The big action stuff was fun. That was another thing. All the big action pieces, set pieces, you would say if it was a movie, they all still had weight and consequence. Because
there were no throwaway battles. There were no battles for the sake of them.
Yeah. But he's right in that afterwards. And that's part of what makes it so good. There are a lot of different elements to it, and depending on what you like, chances are there's going to be elements that appeal to you in the story, even if you're not keen on the big monster battle or you're not keen on the social commentary. It doesn't necessarily beat you over the head with any one thing. There's a lot of stuff going on that chances are and it's all handled so well, something in there will likely appeal to you.
Yeah. And he did a little I don't know, it's so poignant to today, you know? It's like this guy is so ahead of his time because he starts to talk about like the thing he really enjoyed as a kid was this part of a show that happened on Friday nights or whatever, and it was this like sci-fi drawing, like a drawing section of some show where you'd be drawing along with the robot or along with the futuristic device or whatever. And there was a certain point where he realized, that's not for me anymore. Like he grew up too much for it. He realized it was not real. It was a gimmick of the show. And yet his younger brother started to love that aspect of the show, even though he had moved on from it. And I just thought that was a really poignant thing. It's like, there's so many reasons to come to and enjoy these characters and this artwork and comics in general. And yet, like right now, you've got people that are threatening to sue Rotten Tomatoes or threatening to sue Suicide Squad because the Joker's not in the movie enough. You know, like fans have gotten so out of control with some of this stuff where it's like, you know, it's okay if Batman v Superman wasn't my favorite movie and somebody else loved it. It's okay. I didn't love the movie, but I'm glad there are people out there that did.
Yeah. Yeah.
See, Darwin Cook made me go deep.
The other thing, and you touched on it briefly. The other thing I wanted to talk about for a moment was the John Henry stuff. That was I was not expecting that.
No, and yet that was like, whoa.
And he doesn't like there are no punches pulled on some of this stuff.
No, and it comes up later too, you know, like he'll just drop it in later on and show like a whites only drinking fountain kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. So I thought that was interesting and very surprising. And I would have read a whole book on that little story.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
But it's,
yeah, if there's a criticism, it's like, I just want more. That's the thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Just including that. And it kind of, I mean, it's a commentary on the time. It also works towards other people's characters. It has a big effect on John Jones.
Oh, yeah.
But it's so interesting to include just that little bit, that little story that it cuts to once in a while. It has such a huge impact on the story as a whole, at least thematically. I don't know. It's such an interesting decision. But yeah, I was kind of fascinated by it.
When it helped to create that final full circle, I feel like in the end, it basically ties us into what will become the Justice League of America. But it also, like, that ties into John Henry Irons, who we know would later become pivotal in the death and return of Superman.
Mm-hmm.
Who he would embody the spirit of Superman in a way that some of the other Supermen did not.
Oh, you mean Shaq?
Yeah, you know,
Shaquille O'Neal.
Yeah, he hangs out in the junkyard.
Is that
right?
who? Now I don't know if that's the same Steel.
Yeah, that's the live action Steel movie. Yeah, handled poorly, of course.
I'd never seen it. I've never watched it.
It's awful. Don't.
I hadn't planned on it.
You know, like that character is so much richer than that movie.
It feels like wrapping this conversation up on this.
I don't know what else to say. I really recommend it.
Yeah, me too. That's the main thing. Like, I recommend it. And to touch back on what we were talking about with like Patrick's email, if they haven't read this on Make Dad Read Comics, I think this would be, I mean, other than the fact that it's pretty long.
Yeah.
I don't know what like limit.
Is this longer than Crisis? It feels like it was longer.
Page
I don't know
count.
how, though.
Well, okay. Page count, I think it is, or it's close.
But because of the 3-panel layout.
Exactly. It's 3-panel layout on almost every page. That makes it a bit of a quicker read. You know, and once in a great while you'll get info dump, but it's never like pages and pages. But it's also not nearly as talky as Crisis.
Right.
Like you'll get narration from characters and they'll have conversations, but it's not the old school, like a character restating the plot up to that point or saying what they're doing in the panel. Like, it's not like that. It's, you know, the conversations are interesting. sometimes character driven, sometimes plot forwarding, but the dialogue doesn't feel redundant, and there's just not as much of it. So I think it would be a quicker read, but it is pretty long still.
Yeah, that would be the only thing. But I think they've covered like Scott McCloud's Understanding Comics. So, I think if you can dive into that territory, then I think this wouldn't be too tricky.
Yeah, if they haven't, I think this would be something that Patrick's dad would possibly enjoy.
As far as like DC Comics Capes characters go, this has a lot to do with like location and time period, and it's just a lot of callbacks to what was actually happening in the world and the way that people actually acted and responded to things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought it was great. It was fantastic. It's possibly one of my favorite pull list books we've read in at least the last few months.
Yeah, probably the best one of the year. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I'd have to look back at a list
since
of
January,
but yeah, it's one of my favorites for a while. It's really good.
Although I really did enjoy. I mean, I've got it right in front of me. I did enjoy Usagi Ujimbo.
Usagi.
It would be in that same category, though. It'd be right up there with that.
Yeah. Speaking of Make Dad Read Comics, they read Volume 2. I want to say they released an episode where they read Volume 2 shortly after the episode where we talked about Volume 1. It was also a fun conversation. But yeah, I forgot about Usagi. That's good. Or Usagi.
We never figured it out. I don't.
All I know is I was saying it wrong all episode. But yeah, I recommend the New Frontier quite a bit, very highly.
Yes, as do I. It's as good as people say. Believe the hype. It's real.
And in terms of like the art looked great. In terms of comics, like that's not it. It's not something that I would naturally be drawn to. Like it looks fantastic, but it's just not a style. Like I think I'm drawn more to, I don't know, this sounds cheesy, but a darker style. But
sure.
But his style's so good. It
is.
It looks so good.
I mean, like, and I wouldn't say that it's edgy or that it's got gore, other than the invisible plane, but it's artsy. I mean, like, there's some splash pages where they include multiple characters, and I just looked at it and I thought, oh my God, I want to design a poster like that, but I would be totally aping this. Like, I can't do it.
Yeah.
I couldn't do it without totally stealing it. I think it's in the, basically the New Frontier montage stuff where they're basically explaining how things have moved on. There's this whole page of like the Flash and Green Lantern and then the Doom Patrol, and you're like, it's like diagonally spliced through a page, and I'm like, I want that on my wall.
Yeah. Good looking book.
It's good looking.
That book's got good looks.
I recommend the deluxe edition too, because there's additional chapters which I didn't have time to read in advance of this recording, but they look excellent. Like along with the animated feature, they put out some extra chapters, like the smackdown between Batman and Superman, and there's even a Batman and Robin story set in this world.
Oh, nice.
So I'm interested to go ahead and dig deeper into the special features of this book.
Yeah, the original collected volumes that I read did not have that stuff. They had like cover galleries, but that's about it for supplemental stuff.
And those are beautiful too. Yeah.
All right, I think we should take a brief break so I can
I was just going to say my dog is licking me, so he probably needs to go outside.
All right, we're going to take a brief break. Listener, you're going to hear a couple promos for fantastic podcasts that we recommend.
Yeah.
And then we'll be back to talk Stranger Things.
Hey guys, it's the Zigman and Zach Tagus, and when you finish it up listening to this great podcast, make sure you head on over and check out Shotgun Wrestling Radio.
That's right, we're new to the EMC Podcast Network. Over at Shotgun Wrestling Radio, we give you the latest news in professional wrestling.
That's right, we cover WWE, Ring of Honor, Impact Wrestling, and more. Want to know what's going on in the events in the Iowa Independent scene? We cover that too with our Pro Wrestling Calendar.
That's right, Zigman. Not only do we cover that, but we also have a wide variety of interviews with pro wrestlers, both past and present. All our interviews can be found on our Facebook page, facebook.com/ Facebook.com/shotgunradio and the number 1.
We hope you'll take the time to give us a listen, and remember to give us a like and follow on Twitter and Facebook at Shotgun Radio and the number 1.
Welcome back, listener. And Melanie.
And me.
And
I was
Melanie.
sort of listening.
I know. You never really left.
No, I was right there.
You were just being a lurker, a creeper.
Uh-huh. I was like the little hairy kid that sits up on the corner of every Japanese movie.
the hairy kid.
I like that it's every Japanese movie. Not horror movie. Every Japanese movie.
Yep, they're always there. You just don't always see them.
That's what makes them really creepy.
Mm-hmm.
Did those podcasts sound good that we just played promos of?
Yeah, because we don't listen to bad podcasts.
Exactly. We only listen to good ones, and we tell you about the best ones.
Yep.
Truth.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about Stranger Things.
Okay.
The show that we supernatural shamed Jesse into watching last episode.
Which everyone should do.
I'm glad. I'm glad because I still have 5 seasons of Supernatural yet.
Ooh, well, you've made some
glad
serious progress still.
Oh yeah.
You had I don't remember what you said last episode, but you had way more than that.
I think we were like 2 seasons in or something, so we've made it a full 2 more seasons.
Yeah. Stranger Things is an 8-episode Netflix series, in case you didn't know. Written and directed by the Duffer Brothers. Previously, they wrote and directed a horror drama film called Hidden. Came out last year. And 4 episodes of the TV series Wayward Pines, which I'm not that familiar with.
I've heard of it, but I've never watched any of either of those other shows.
And the score was by Kyle Dixon and Michael Stein. They are 2 members of a synth group called Survive.
Sounds like
I feel like they are unsung heroes here.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, Stranger Things.
Fantastic.
Right up our alleys. We're all the appropriate age.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I guess we talked about it briefly the last episode, didn't we, Melanie?
Did we?
I don't know. We just said it was awesome.
It is awesome.
So,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
So, Jesse.
It's awesome.
Now, was it overhyped? Because that was my worry, because I know we recommended it, and at that point, like,
the internet
really started to hit full swing on it.
Right.
And actually, the big wave of internet hype came a little after I thought it was going to.
Oh, yeah. Even after I watched the whole thing, it was like all of a sudden, like everybody was like, bam. I'm like, really? This has kind of been a thing for a while, but
you guys are behind the curve.
right. I thought I was behind the curve, and I wasn't, apparently.
So we just like we're sitting out there waiting for that wave, I guess.
So did it live up to the hype?
You know, like the first episode, which is really well done, and it sets up the whole series, I was kind of like, yeah, it was all right. But then you get into the second episode, and I think it's either episode 2 or 3 where all the really scary stuff kind of hits.
Mm-hmm.
And it feels less scary as time goes on. Like you see similar stuff happen later. But like the first time you see it in this series, you're just like, what is happening?
Yeah.
I'm not going to be able to sleep tonight.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, I think we watched the second episode in the dark, and Holly was like, I'm not doing that again. Because, yeah, she had to go to sleep after that. And, wow.
Can we talk about the door?
Yeah, go ahead.
So we'd watch about an episode a night.
Yeah.
And there were 2 nights in which, and this is, Melanie has to get up earlier than me, so she'd go to bed before I would, and I'd stay up late. There were 2 nights in which the bedroom door had to remain open so that there was some kind of light shining in there while Melanie was going to sleep.
Because, and it's not just this scary movie, that's a big part of it, but I have those issues anyway sometimes.
Where you creep yourself out?
Yeah, I creep myself out. I hear noises and I don't know what they are, and I'm like, there's something in here. Or like with my feet. I hate having my feet covered when they're laying out. It's like, oh, I just felt something brush against my foot. Oh my god, there's something in here. And I know it's not real, but my brain makes it real.
But it's pretty rare that you will have to leave the bedroom door open.
Yeah, usually I just come out and go to the bathroom and stuff.
And it happened like 2 nights in a row while we were watching this.
Yeah, it was it touched down all the creepy things that I feel when I sleep.
Yeah, I thought it was fantastic. you are starting to see the people that push back against it because it's become so popular.
Sure. And some of them have honest criticisms and that's fair.
Mm-hmm.
But it hits, I don't know. I think the thing that made it blow up so huge is the fact that it came out of nowhere. There was no hype leading up to this thing. Just like all of a sudden there was a thing and everybody that did see it started talking about it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I loved it. I think it's very well made. I think it nails about everything it needs to. And I had heard just a little bit about it beforehand. I'd heard there was basically I'd heard Netflix was working on and this is maybe a month before it came out. They were, there was going to be a new Netflix show called Stranger Things. I thought it was going to be more of a straightforward horror type thing or thriller placed in the 80s. And I was like, well, all that sounds cool. I'm on board. And I was waiting for it. Then I kind of forgot about it. And then they had a trailer. And the trailer almost didn't sell it for me. Like, it wasn't bad, but like the music in the trailer was like your usual run-of-the-mill type score, It looked like maybe an alien abduction thing or something. Well, then we watch the show and we know what that's about, where they, why I would assume that. But it didn't even like all the really cool stuff in the show. It didn't even hit on any of that. So I was like, oh, okay, well, I still want to see it.
Mm-hmm.
And then it came out and it was awesome because I was like, it's got a legit synth score. I did not expect that. It takes place in the 80s. They nailed the look of it. And it just pulls so many cool elements from things.
Yeah, and the stuff with the girl when she's
Which girl? 11?
Yeah.
Okay.
What other girl is there?
The older sister?
She's the older sister. She's not the girl. Anyway, when she's in the like dark watery whatever, some of that stuff looks super awesome and I love it. I love that whole thing.
So, I mean, it's hard to talk about it, and this is one thing that a lot of people are talking about is it pulls so many things so directly, it's almost on the edge of like ripping things off.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, derivative almost.
Yeah, and for me, I think it works. It works in obviously a different attitude, but it works in a Tarantino type way. Tarantino will straight rip things off, but he has his own flair. He does it with flair, and he takes these things sometimes very directly, including plot points.
But he tells a new story with it.
Yeah, and exactly. And he'll take these things and elevate it or put it together and make this new thing that's awesome.
Yeah, it's almost like an homage.
Yeah.
Not instead of like ripping it off, he's like, look at this great thing and the great things you can do with it.
Yeah. And in the case of something like this, like there's several YouTube videos you can look up where it's like every Easter egg and every reference. And there's certain things where it's like, while watching the show, I didn't catch that, but it's like they consciously had to put extra work in to like mimic that exact shot from E.T. or this or that or whatever. And
sure,
it's not like even a lazy thing. It's like they put extra effort in to fit some of the stuff in.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I think some of the best descriptions of this were where they would say that it was like a cross between Amblin Entertainment. So you had your E.T. beats, you had your John Carpenter with the synth, obviously, and also the Thing. I mean, like not only were there like posters of the Thing in there, but like there were moments where I was like, oh my God, this is the Thing. And it's so creepy.
Uh-huh.
And Stephen King. So you have like the bizarre shop where like fire starter things are happening, where you've got kids that have extraordinary abilities and what's going on and what's the consequence of that. So you have Stephen King, John Carpenter, Amblin Entertainment, the 80s as a whole, all wrapped up into one big package. And how could you not like it if you even remotely liked the 80s?
Well, I was gonna say I thought they were going for the 80s. Isn't that's solid? That's it right there.
Well, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And that's the thing that really took me by surprise is like, I was like, okay, it's going to be placed in the 80s. And I was hoping they'd kind of ride the recent trend of like, because, obviously I dig that stuff. I was hoping they were kind of going to play on that. I didn't expect them to like, not only is it placed in the 80s, but like thematically and like story beats, like they pulled all that stuff from 80s type material. Mm-hmm. And it's like taking from all those elements putting it together, filtering out like kind of the super cheesy moments that a lot of that 80s stuff would have and all that, and like refining it to here's the stuff that's cool. Some of it's blatant, some of it's more subtle.
Mhm.
But you got Poltergeist in there. The whole thing with the lights
Oh yeah.
remind me of Poltergeist, where, and I mean even that whole plot point where the child is gone somewhere but kind of communicates through a thing. But it was like that playful, that like kind of creepy, kind of playful supernatural thing, mystery.
Mhm.
And then you got healthy D&D, and it wasn't even just like, you know, it's 80s, these kids play D&D, like
They used it to explain the plot. It was crazy awesome.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, it's wove into the plot and very theme and concept of the whole show.
You didn't even need to know anything about D&D, and it somehow made more sense.
Yeah.
I was like, that is the best use of D&D in a multimedia thing I can think of.
And it has the Winona Ryder in it. Sorry.
Winona Ryder?
Oh yeah, she was brilliant too. I forget how good of an actress she is, but she nailed this.
See, there's a lot of that's one of Winona Ryder is one of the things that I hear. She's one of the more polarizing aspects.
Okay,
of it.
I guess I could see that, but
Because there's a lot of people that just
I'm firmly in
hate on
the
it.
she nailed it camp.
I think she nailed it. A lot of people are like, oh, she's terrible in it. I don't think she's terrible. I think she's good. I just think her character is horribly annoying. She's that super high, and you know, maybe not as dimensional as some of the other characters. She's pretty.
Oh, yeah.
She's pretty one note for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Well, I would imagine if you freaking lost your child and he was trying to communicate with you through lights, you would be pretty one note.
Yeah. I didn't think she was bad. I think if anything, her character is annoying. But even if she wasn't hysterical most of the season, I think her character would be annoying anyway. She's very high. She's one of those very high strung, nervous ladies.
No, she looks like a
Yeah.
bar lady to me.
I felt like she went full on Marlon Brando method acting for this because she looked haggard at parts, you know, like she went to work.
Yeah, she let herself not look so great.
Yeah, she let herself go for the role.
Which is not something a lot of, particularly actresses, well, female actors, I don't know. I don't want to sound...
She's like the female name in this thing. You know, like she's the big name, I think.
And that's not easy. That's not necessarily easy for a female actor to do because, so much of, I'm not saying it's right. I'm treading lightly, but it's
a lot
tough.
of the,
It's built on looks.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it's a norm in Hollywood.
Yeah.
And I think that's another thing that's brilliant about this is it's another example of Netflix having a series that can take whatever's the norm in Hollywood and say, nah, we're going to try something else.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you've got the same thing that's happening with Orange is the New Black. It's another Netflix series where they're in prison, so they're not going to look totally made up. It's just not going to happen.
I think the casting in this all around is interesting. The casting of the kids, and this is pretty much everybody agrees, the casting of the kids, the main central group, is great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They all feel like they came from 80s. The Goonies and
Little
Stand
Will
By
Wheatons.
Me, and what's that?
They're like little Will Wheatons.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then the casting of the teens is interesting because they're not. That was one thing. The older sister, I can't remember her name offhand. The character's name.
Yeah,
Is that Nancy?
Yeah, she's kind of got a very unusual face structure,
Yeah, a little bit.
but it's not typical casting. She's not bad looking, but she's interesting looking, and a lot of the other teen cast is interesting looking.
Yeah.
I think my favorite of the teen was her friend that got sucked into the pool. She
Barb?
looks so
Barbara,
much like every other like best friend of in the 80s movies that was,
Yeah, if you look at
left aside or whatever.
the best friend, the kind of nerdy best friend of like 16 Candles and
Uh-huh.
stuff
With the
like that.
owl eye glasses and everything.
She's kind of like her character's dead on.
I know.
Yeah.
She was the best.
In fact, when I
As far
first
as
seen her, I was like,
Yeah.
they're taking all the 80s things because
Yeah.
her outfit is so terrible, but it's like it's the terrible 80s outfit.
If I had a complaint, like I felt like that was a little too on the nose. Like her fate.
Oh,
Was
her
just
fate.
like-
Her fate. Yeah.
Yeah, her fate is like, oh, she was destined for this to happen.
Is there weird sounds?
So-
Oh, it's your phone? God, that was creeping me out.
It's one of those Stranger Things.
Barb is my major complaint.
That she dies.
Well, okay.
Spoiler.
What? Oh, like her fate was known. They were like, that's not giving it away.
Oh, well, okay.
Anyway,
That's
but we
fair.
didn't give a spoiler warning.
Fine.
But, yeah.
Sorry. Spoiler.
But if we're gonna talk
Spoilers
about
after the
her,
fact, that's great.
if we're gonna talk about her, if we're gonna talk about her fate, like the fact that she is in the other world, that's some of my favorite part.
Uh-huh.
Seeing the house party, like was his name Steven, his backyard, but in the upside down.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god, cool.
The Upside Down was awesome in general.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, but I was gonna say that's one of the bigger complaints is it felt like, and they kind of played it a little bit this way, but it felt like nobody cared about Barb.
Yeah.
That she disappeared and nobody cared, and they played it off that way, but it was almost too much like the show didn't care. Like, they set it. She's not a major character, but they set her up, and then again, this is obviously we're well into spoilers. They kill her off, and like she gets a couple lines of dialogue from like the one character that interacted with her in the show, but we don't get the like. I mean, Will disappeared, and it was like a huge thing, and the whole town is looking. And albeit it's a little different with Barb, she was a teenager, but still, I just didn't buy that. Like nobody seemed to notice. Even after she was confirmed dead, nobody really seemed to notice.
But even with a small child, look at how long it took for anybody to even get on board with that. It was like he was gone days, I think, before they actually started freaking out.
Yeah, I don't know. I just felt that was a weak point.
Mm-hmm.
It just didn't seem that plausible.
It made me angry only because the sister's boyfriend's bad word friends didn't die. If they would have died, then I would have been okay with it.
But I guess when you put it that way, that's one of the strengths of the shows is taking like what you would expect to happen and then flipping it. Like I didn't expect her jerky boyfriend to end up not, he still wasn't a great guy, but
being that was the thing that I was like, they did flip that expectation for me because I kept saying that to Holly. I was like, no, he's a jerk. He's going to be that guy, and she's like, no, I don't think he's that guy. And then she was right.
Well,
and I was wrong.
I kind of was thinking
he kind of was, but they give him an arc, and I didn't expect that.
Yeah, I didn't know if he was going to be a good guy or a bad guy, but I knew that the other guy wasn't going to end up on top, the brother of Will.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, yeah, no, he's destined to
Jonathan
be alone and take pictures of people from afar. Poor guy.
Oh, poor guy.
Well, and they were good about, since they had a little. Oh, what?
At least he has good taste in music.
Yeah,
he has probably the best, most underground taste of music as of any small town rural kid in 1983.
Yeah.
It was a little stretch, but it's also like the kids having the Thing poster, or even the one kid having the Evil Dead poster in 1983. Yeah. The Thing was a flop.
Oh yeah.
But somebody loved it, or it wouldn't still be here, right?
True.
We loved it. No, but I can look past that because I'm like, well, that's fine. That's obviously well, I was gonna say filmmakers, but yeah, the filmmakers.
That was one thing I felt like the Evil Dead poster took me out of it for a second because I was like, I feel like that's a modern Evil Dead poster. I don't feel like that's an 80s Evil Dead poster.
Well, and that's a good way to put it. It took me out of it for a moment. The Thing poster did a little bit, and the Evil Dead poster did a little bit. I mean, I still love it because I love The Thing and Evil Dead.
Sure.
But that's my complaint that I was trying to get at with the music, is it took me out of it a little bit. Not the music they played, but like the music he was talking about. And it's like,
maybe you guys didn't have the same 80s that I had, but they used to give out free posters at movies all the time to try to promote them. And I had tons of movie posters all over my room when I was like younger, like Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Cool World. Who ever saw Cool World? I did because I had the poster.
I liked Ralph Bakshi.
Well, you know what? maybe next year, next decade, when the 90s are the big throwback thing,
Mhm.
and we're watching Strangest Things that was set in the 90s, and there's a
Oh
Cool
God, I
World
hope
poster.
they don't do that. Oh, like when they had that 70s show, and then they tried to have that 80s show. Oh, I hope they don't do that.
Yeah. They didn't wait long enough.
Mm-mm.
The 80s show might hit hard now.
Oh yeah, now it's a good period piece.
You gotta wait a decade for the next decade to be cool.
Well, I mean, remember all the 70s and some 60s stuff in the 90s?
Yeah, I do.
Revival thing.
I do.
No, I guess it would have been big 60s stuff in the 90s. There's even the big miniseries TV event, the 60s. And then
Oh,
70s stuff would have been the 2000s,
Mhm.
the first decade.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And
That's
what I'm
a
saying.
show, and Bell Bottoms kind of came back for a sec.
Yeah.
I had bell bottoms.
And there's certain tight pants looked very bell bottomsies, and a lot of boys' haircuts
Mhm.
started to look very 70s. I
Mhm.
thought,
Yeah.
for a while in the aughts.
Like yours.
No, mine's just long. Mine doesn't have a style. 70s has there's either a bit of a feather or a certain swoop one way or another.
Like your beard.
My beard has a style. I just have no control over
It's
it.
Cthulhu. That's the style.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Cthulhu.
it's
I understand
unspeakable,
this. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
once you see it, you can't unsee it. So I don't remember where we were. Okay, favorite characters?
Oh, that's hard.
The chubby kid.
The chubby kid.
I would say Dustin is a fan favorite for sure.
Yeah.
One of my favorite fan things that has come out was done by James Hance. He did Dustin from Stranger Things, and then he had him with Toothless from How to Train Your Dragon. So that was just brilliant, and I was like, I wish I had thought of that.
I liked. Well, 11's awesome.
Mhm.
Yeah,
The older brother of Will was okay.
Mhm.
I kind of liked him, even though he was a creeper.
Jonathan,
Jonathan. The main kid, because there kind of is.
Mike,
Mhm.
is it Michael?
He's okay, but he's kind of a jerk.
Yeah.
You know who's a big jerk? What's his name? The other kid. Basically, the other than Will.
Lucas.
Yeah.
Lucas.
That kid's a jerk.
Mhm.
And
I felt bad for that kid though. Like he came around, but that was his job to be a jerk.
yeah, for the most part. And I was kind of like, oh, come on. Like, they're just going to have this character, just hit that over and over. But then they ended up playing it into, the characters, and it made sense. And it's like, well, he's kind of jealous because of
Every character had a strong archetype too. I don't know, Dustin was kind of your was it Chunk from the Goonies?
Uh-huh.
It's like he was constantly worried about food, and yeah, he was not annoying like Chunk. He was kind of the heart of the group. Then you had Michael, who was very logical but open to things, and then you had Lucas, who was logical but not open to things. He was your Spock character almost.
Mm-hmm.
They almost went D&D archetypes with some of these guys.
Yeah, and a lot of archetypes from the movies and stuff that it pulls influence from, but they are also able to flesh the characters out, so they're not just one-dimensional. It's basically what you're saying, yeah.
I think one of the best descriptions of the series that I had heard was that it was not necessarily it was a series, but it wasn't like a series. It was more like a really long movie.
Yeah.
Even though they took breaks in between, there were obvious episode breaks, and each episode kind of stands on its own. It still, if you took out the breaks, it would feel like one super long, fleshed out movie.
And it felt cinematic all throughout, I thought.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a lot of shows now, they're single camera shows. They're not shot like sitcoms. They're shot to be more cinematic, but it still doesn't always elevate to a cinematic feel.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought Stranger Things did.
Yeah.
I mean, even if you think of Daredevil or Jessica Jones, Daredevil's not the best example because they have some amazing set pieces in those seasons, but they look great but sometimes they still feel like a series. Maybe more so Jessica Jones. But this definitely did have a movie feel all through it.
It felt like when they did It or The Stand, Stephen King's miniseries, except better because the end didn't suck hardcore.
And I'd say better production too. This looked
Well,
nice.
yeah, but those were old. Those were a long time ago.
This emulates a long time ago.
Yeah, okay.
In a galaxy far, far away.
But they can do more with money now because better cameras look better and they're cheaper to operate and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I loved It when I was younger, except the end. I'm like, this is stupid. Why is he a spider? But
it does not hold up.
Well, it's because, the book fleshes all that out and the movie does not.
Well, we'll have a new It soon. Have you seen the pictures of the clown yet?
Oh, yeah.
I don't really like it.
they're not. It's not going to be Tim Curry, and Tim Curry's terrifying without all the extra stuff,
Yeah.
So
The makeup actually made him a little friendlier looking.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. When they picked the kid from Hemlock Grove, which was like, okay.
Oh, really?
We started watching that, and we never.
We fell off.
It was all right. It got weird. The first season was good. Second season, not as much.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I can't remember where we fell off of. Somewhere towards the end of the first season, I think.
I don't know.
It got pretty weird in the first season, but like the second season was like, okay, we're going to wrap this up. Because basically we just had a second season so that we could tie up the loose ends.
Oh, interesting. It felt like it meandered a little bit at times.
Yeah.
That reminds me. So what'd you guys think of the pacing of this? You think it was paced out pretty well?
I thought it was paced well. I mean, I don't know.
I kind of think 8 episodes was about perfect. Because I think
Right.
if they went long, if there was more, given where, having seen it, where it ends up in the last episode, I think if they tried for a 12 episodes season, I think it really would have started a drag.
Yeah, I agree.
Yes.
Like, because I'm sure there's more they could have put in there, but given what was in there, like, I can't think of how they could flesh what's there out more without it feeling like just filler.
Yeah, I was gonna say. Actually, they could probably drop some stuff and still be good.
Well, there's things that they kind of like draw out a little bit that don't. Well, you were complaining, Melanie, about. Was it you?
I don't know.
Maybe it wasn't.
What
Maybe it was somebody else. There was a complaint about the teenager storyline where they're getting the bear trap and they're going and buying the stuff and all
Yeah, that was me.
How it didn't really pan out like you thought it was going to. But they ended up using the stuff.
Yeah, but it was so cartoony and it seemed unrealistic that they just go and let them. Yeah, take all this stuff and nobody's gonna question it.
This is America. They had cash. That's all they need.
I think in a small town it would be worse. They wouldn't let some teenagers go off with,
1983. That's all you need to say. No, I thought that part was great though because it felt like I'm trying to think. Nightmare on Elm Street, where they're like the kids got a plan suddenly, so they're like it was almost
the montage.
Yeah, it was almost montage. They're gathering together stuff. They're putting together a plan. The adults can't help them, so they're going to take care of it themselves. And that's another thing. There's like 3 stories going at the same time. And a lot of the season, it's almost frustrating. You're like, when are these going to come together? Because they all know like the same things or different angles of the same thing, but none of them know that the other ones know.
That was one thing that frustrated me. When it was the girl started talking about the thing that she saw to the boy that took the picture. And he's like, what did it look like? And he didn't wait for her to say it had no face. He told her that it had no face. And I'm like, that doesn't count. You could have just fed that to her. It
would have been better if he'd have waited till she said.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought that was great. And I thought that was like a perfect structure because you've got the movie, I don't want to say cliche, but you've got the kids movie, the Goonies or the E.T. And then you've got the teen movie with the, like, there's a little bit of the drama and like the dating stuff and that turns into a thing and, the creepy brother. And then you've got the adult stuff with Winona Ryder and the
Popper.
Yeah. And I actually really liked his character too, the cops.
Oh yeah, he was really well realized, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
even the creepy one-dimensional doctor was kind of interesting because it's like, I don't like him, but I don't know why.
He looked so much. He was the perfect 80s villain. His hair, it was great.
Yeah.
He was practically a Christopher Walken character.
Yeah, he could have been a Walkin. I've seen 80s movies with Walkin as like a scientist type.
Yeah, me too. That reminds me though. Earlier when you said Walkin and Rollin, I was totally thinking they made Christopher Walken costumes, and I was super excited.
I don't even know what he would like Max Shrek or whatever his name was. Batman Returns, because it always comes back to Batman.
Yep, of course.
Oh, and sorry, just because we talked about it. You should draw up a costume of a tank and the monkey is sitting on it right there. Is the kid
I got a couple of the sheets. I could do that.
Yeah, perfect. Make it a tank. Give the kid a banana. Bam.
It's funny because Axton actually sent me a message today, and he was like, I was thinking about doing a Capaldi piece with Capaldi looks like Rick from Rick and Morty, and he would have like the sunglasses and the guitar and the tank, and the only thing that's holding me back is I would have to draw a tank. I'm like, yeah, welcome to my world.
That's a concept flaw right there.
I was like, yeah, tank monkey. Oh crap.
Why didn't I create bicycle monkey?
Right?
I don't know. I think bicycle would almost be harder.
Yeah, a lot of spokes.
Mm.
You can simplify a tank.
Yeah. Oh, well, I guess so.
It's basically a tank. Basically a box with a gun on top.
Surf monkey.
Surf monkey. Oh, my kingdom for a reboot.
What? Oh my! What if you rebooted Tank Monkey?
Oh
It'd be
no!
even more funny.
It would have to be way grittier. I would have to cast Christian Bale. The whole thing. You'd have this gravelly voice. Where's the tank? Where is it? I'm sure I clipped on that.
No, that's all right. I think that
it would just sell it. Huh?
adds to the effect.
Mm-hmm.
You clipped in my headphones, so I'm pretty sure you clipped on the recording.
well, when I'm being Batman,
You can't hold Batman down.
I have to.
Batman clips all he wants. You know what he calls it? Bat clipping.
Oh no!
Check the bat levels. Well, what's the bat levels? They're just the regular levels. Mine.
He goes to the bat computer and it rolls out like a receipt tape.
The audio beta.
I can hear it two ways. I can hear Christian Bale explanation and I can hear an Adam West explanation. It's just not polite, Robin.
That reminds me. Have you seen the trailer for this animated?
I wish that this had happened sooner. I can't believe it's taken us so long to get an animated Batman 66.
Yeah, so they're making, well, DC's they're pumping the Batman animated stuff out. For better or worse.
Yeah.
Sometimes worse.
Yeah, when they add half a movie that doesn't belong, kick that crap off there.
Yeah. God. Anyway, so what is it? Batman Return of the Caped Crusader or something?
Something like that. Yeah.
But it's basically it's an animated feature version of Adam West, Burt Ward, Batman and Robin.
Maybe drug dealer jokers and
it's kind of like the oh man. It's basically like the Big Finish version of What If we continued the series.
Yeah, basically because they've got Adam West, Burt Ward, and Julie. I want to say Julie Newmar.
It's Julie, isn't it?
I think so. I was second guessing myself.
Yeah. Adam West, Burt Ward, and Julie Newmar. I believe so.
To voice
Julie Newmar. Oh,
yeah. The trailer was interesting. The only thing that bugged me is it just didn't look like I would have expected. I feel like the comics, the Batman 66 comics, nailed the look of Batman 66 series. And this looks like the backgrounds, for one thing, just look too, albeit there was a night shot, but it looked too dark and kind of realistic. And I expected more of because the Batman 66 has that kind of cheesy 60s pop art, bright colors and just and this didn't really, at least what I saw didn't really portray that, but whatever,
Yeah.
It really kept making me think of Big Finish, and it's certain, when I think of Big Finish, and for those people that maybe don't know, Big Finish, they do a lot of classic Doctor Who, which is great if your classic doctor still sounds like your classic doctor. And some people's voices age really well, and some people's voices don't age as well.
Mhm.
Like Sylvester McCoy still sounds very much like his doctor. For me, the fifth doctor, as much as I love Peter Davison, his doctor does not sound like his current voice. Like,
Yeah.
His
a
waddle got
much
too big.
softer voice.
Yep.
Yeah, okay. I don't know.
I would say the sixth Doctor as well. He sounds.
He's gotten to that
Sounds-
point.
he
You
just
can
sounds
still
old.
you can still kind of hear his voice, but you can definitely tell that he's older. But yeah, 5 and 6 for sure are much harder to arrest that whole like span of time that has changed, because fifth Doctor got really bassy and sixth Doctor has gotten more gravelly as time has gone on. And I'm sure that the seventh Doctor has a modicum of that, but I have a much easier time forgetting how old Sylvester McCoy is.
Mhm.
I only really listened to one ever, and it was because Randall had me listen to it. And all I can say is, Layla only sounds like Layla, like a couple times.
Yeah. You know, Tom
Yeah.
Baker, he might be the oldest of them. I mean,
I
he's
think he
the
is.
oldest
Yeah,
Doctor,
he's like
but
80s going on 90s now.
he sounds older.
Mm-hmm.
But Tom Baker has such a distinct way of accenting words and the
Uh-huh.
way he talks that it's not as apparent.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Layla,
Uh-huh.
yeah.
She was so young when she took that role too,
Mhm.
so it's going to be hard not to
She
sound much older.
Yeah, it was like I'd be listening to it, and then like she'd exclaim something, and I'd be like, "Oh my god, is that Layla?"
and then it's like, wait, no, it's some old British lady.
Yeah. but I mean, it was
It's
still,
funny because she plays all sorts of different roles, even on other Doctors, and like in a sixth Doctor episode, I'll go, "Oh, I know who that is. It's Louise Jameson."
Mm-hmm.
And but then it's like then you'll have her as Leela, and you go, "I'm not buying that." but like I can hear her voice on other stuff and instantly recognize it. But in the fourth Doctor stuff, and sometimes in the like the Gallifrey series or the Worlds of Doctor Who, where they bring the Gallifrey people in, I'm kind of like, it's taking me out of it.
You know, and
Because
sorry, go ahead.
the character. Well, because of the character.
Yeah, and I think part of it with her is with the audio, she's going to have a lot more dialogue in general. You
Mhm.
got to have audio, or else you
Right.
don't know the characters there. But and she's done the character a bunch more for the audio. There's a lot more where she sounds a bit more naturalistic. And in the show, she wasn't always like amped up to 11, but she was a pretty excitable character, and she would exclaim a lot in the show.
Yeah.
Or be like ready just to tear somebody up. So I think when I think of her character, that's what I hear is her.
You're not
being real
not
excitable.
exposition. You're like, oh, wait, it's time for a Leela exposition moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. When this actually made me think of Stranger Things, to tie it back to our topic here. The sound, like, it's kind of off-putting at first, but then it's also like the sound editors were just trying to capture the period.
Yeah.
You know, like with the synth and stuff. It's like, okay, the synth
okay.
is so totally 80s,
Mhm.
and it's jarring to our modern ear, but it's perfect for the property.
Mm. Well, there's some people who just live with the 80s in their souls.
I did not. Well, okay. So I did not have that problem at all, but
But
I listen. The 80s synth is my modern music at this moment. I listen
Sure,
to a lot
sure.
of it. So I didn't have that problem, but I can see what you're saying. And that's one thing that was kind of interested to get to see how the general public would react to this, because it doesn't feel like it's dated, but it's like a period piece through and through. Like they're like, it takes place in the 80s. It looks 80s. It's going to sound 80s. But
Right.
like the best part of 80s, because there's a lot of terrible 80s music and stuff, and they didn't go with any of that. So
They really didn't touch on any of the pop music, did they?
There's well, not the super pop stuff.
They didn't go 80s like safety dance or anything.
But
They didn't say we could dance if we want to.
there's a lot of timely. Well, see, something like this, I think, benefits from having time filter out the crap. Not that the safety dance is crap.
No, yeah.
Because you can dance if you want to.
Yeah, but it would have felt way too on the nose if they had included it.
But they did, there is a lot of contemporary music in it. In fact, that's the first thing. Like there was an official Spotify playlist going around before the score got released ever. That's all the the music from the show. But it's, if you were actually in the 80s or watching a movie that takes place in the 80s, you're more likely to get kind of crappy 80s songs because it was just like, well, that was out when the movie came out and they're going to throw it in there. And in retrospect, yeah, it's kind of a crappy song. But now they're not going to put a crappy song in there. They're going to put something that stand the test of time. Like, yeah, it's from the 80s, but everybody knows it and they love it,
Yeah, and
Right.
sometimes they would take a crappy song and then they'd name the movie after it, and then you just associate the movie with crap.
Yeah, that's true.
Sorry.
You sound like you had something in mind specifically.
I was thinking of a couple things, actually, but...
I love the music.
Oh, baby.
So much so that you can go to superscience.bandcamp.com and download a 3-track single or EP, whatever you want to call it, release of Stranger Things inspired music.
And it totally fits.
Yeah, it's not covers of the score, and it's not like me trying to emulate the score. It's pretty much me doing what I've been doing for the last 2.5 years.
Yeah, but it sounds more dark.
It's
like you're doing sounds from the upside down.
Yeah. I mean, I made it with this in mind. It was supposed to go on a Stranger Things tribute style compilation album that fell through, and I was like, well, I like these songs, so I'm still going to release them.
Yeah.
But, I make synthwave music, which is 80s synthy sounding stuff. And so this show coming out and being as good as it is and having that kind of score, it was
validation.
Yeah, it's super exciting.
Yeah.
And it's you still see it creeping into mainstream stuff, but this is, I think, one of the bigger mainstream hits to really pull from the whole 80s nostalgia thing.
Yeah.
So that was Stranger Things. I think we should put a bow on this thing.
I think you're right. It's awesome. Go watch it if you haven't.
It's awesome. Go read it. It's awesome. Go watch it. That's our episode. That covers everything.
Yep.
And we're awesome, so listen to us all the time.
Get out of our treasure can, garbage man.
Yeah.
It's artsy.
You have to go back and one in the same.
Yeah.
One in the same. I was surprised at how there's probably still some more, but those clamor clips that I pulled out of
those are some of the best clamor clips, man.
And they come out of the commentary. I was so surprised.
You do well, but those, I was like, oh my god, these are perfect.
Right? I thought they were really good. I thought they were very funny. So I'm gonna say follow us on Twitter, because we like tweeting. Twitter.com/Grawlix podcast, and also on Facebook. You know what? We have all that stuff's going to be said in the outro. So
we're the most consistent on Twitter, though.
Yeah, for sure. Facebook is problematic. Twitter, we're pretty consistent.
Instagram, we do fun stuff, but it's when we feel like it.
You ready for
I don't do nothing.
This has been Randy. Grawlix is our friend, and Grawlix is weird.
This is Melanie, and I want to be a great, big, huge Grawlix.
And this is Jesse. Hey, you Grawlix!
Thank you for listening to the Grawlix Podcast. The Grawlix Podcast is a production of the Electronic Media Collective and Vorpal Arrow Studios. For more Grawlix podcasts, check out GrawlixPodcast.com. Also find us on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play Music, YouTube, ElectronicMediaCollective.com, Facebook.com/GrawlixPodcast, Twitter.com/GrawlixPodcast, all the .com/all the Grawlix Podcasts.
She's our friend and she's Grawlix? I don't know. Weird. You kind of need weird.
Yeah.
She's like, oh, and she's ready.
She's our Grawlix. Well, that could be weird though. What is Grawlix replacing?
I feel like this is a movie quotes outtake right here.
Yeah.
I've got one that, yeah.
When movie quotes and future predictions go bad.